Yay, they're actually filling up the platform up here. That's a good thing. Welcome to Unity of Little Rock. Happy Father's Day. What? Happy Father's Day. Thank you. Yes. I drew a card this morning. Thank you, Jerry. You started me on the thinking about drawing cards. This is a daily word affirmation deck. And this card today says awareness. One with God, I am infinite peace. I raise my consciousness to the God standard of oneness. So today we hold that we are that God standard of oneness. We may not yet recognize that fully, completely to the depth of what that means, but we are that. And we hold that for each other. So this morning, as we continue in Father's Day and honor and recognize our fathers, recognize the mothers that put up with our fathers, and every other aspect of that in our lives, we're going to hold and support one another and know that the love that is family is the love that is here. So now I invite you to say hey and maybe share just a little of that love with your neighbor. Go hug a couple people.
Well, not yet. Give him about 20 seconds.
Bang the drum slowly, beat the pipe, play the pipe slowly. That's the line you're trying to think of.
What is it?
Bang the drum slowly and play the pipe slowly.
Yeah.
That's from Pizza Laredo. Bang the drum.
Bang it.
Not loud enough. No, that was. Okay.
You got people smiling for yourself up here. Probably. Not everybody will remember this one. I don't know. I came across it. You could advance the second slide for a second. So there's a repetitive part in the course, which I didn't even look up the language. Anyway, they do grateful for my spiritual teacher.
Welcome. I'm Katie. I'm the prayer chaplain. I'll be available after service if anyone has any requests they'd like to take into prayer. As we take a deep breath and settle into the space this morning, let us give thanks for the power of divine love that brings us together in a community this summer to enjoy the peacefulness and playtime to nurture our inner child. And let us give thanks for the power of divine order that organizes us as a community so we can build something greater than ourselves. And so it is. And together we will start with our statement of being. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Fulfilled here now, right? Maybe I'm giving myself away, what era I'm from. A free hat? We can do some dad hats today. My dad used to wear a hat, and he looked hilarious in it. And I couldn't help it for my entire life with him. When he would wear a ball cap like this, it just did not work for his head. And I found it the most amusing thing. I had the opportunity in my life, I had 2 dads. Any of y'all have more than one dad in your life? Yeah. I had my biological father. He died when I was fairly young, and I have to say that he probably taught me more about the dark side of life than the light. And then my stepdad, who I grew up and spent most of my life with, is probably the man that taught me that someone can love beyond my wildest imagination. And I know that he had that love for me, and he showed that, shared that, and was that in my life. These 2 men had a powerful impact on me. They wore different hats in my life. Matter of fact, they wore lots of hats, as do all parents, but our fathers wear immense hats. Just in the jobs that my dad had, he wore many hats. He did everything from construction to sales. He was involved with certain businesses and organizations and roles that I can't even really say that I understood at those points in my life. But he was also my teacher. He was my coach. He was my cheerleader. He was the disciplinarian in my life. He was the person that showed me how and showed me how not to. He was also the man that, much to my horror and shame, I got my humor from. Because he was the epitome of corny. And when it comes out of my mouth now, I only hear my dad, as many of us do. Matter of fact, I heard him one time. He married my mother. She already had 3 children, my brother, my sister, and I. And now it's years later, and this man knows that, married a woman that already had children, and he asked, would you do it over again, after all this time? And he stopped, my dad, and went, well, I would marry her, but I'd have her trade the kids for the kids down the block, an even swap. Of course, I just remember going, I'm sitting right here. But that was his humor. Always trying to bring humor into interactions in his relationship, and he never met anyone that he couldn't have a conversation with. Matter of fact, to our chagrin, I have more than once in my childhood remember standing around for what was probably 10 minutes, but seemed like 10 hours as a kid, while he struck up a conversation with somebody that he was just passing on the sidewalk with. He could, at a drop of a hat, could have a conversation. Our fathers, are y'all playing with me? Oh, wait a minute. I will, because this one's ignoring me. There we go. Our fathers, when we look in the Bible, obviously there's a lot about fathers, but it's usually about the Father. And I wanted to include this for us because it said in Ephesians, fathers, do not provoke your children. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of Unity, in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, defines Lord. And he said, Lord, then, is another name for spiritual man. It represents one of the aspects of divine being. As Lord, spiritual man is ruler of herself, of her faculties, and of the world. So if we come back here, It says to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the spiritual being, the spiritual man, the spiritual woman for us. And I believe that that was their goal of our fathers, to bring us up in that spiritual awareness, even when they had no intention of bringing any such thing in our lives. My father had a faith. He didn't talk about his faith. He went to church most of the time in his life, but he shared and taught that faith without ever talking about God in my life. So I know that he was teaching me about spiritual man in his way, representing that to me. But he did it, as I already said, in a profound way for me, because he was a lunatic. Because his humor and the way he interacted with the world was zany and craziness as far as I was concerned as a child. I might could appreciate it more as an adult, but as a child, he was just wacky. And it was his wackiness that got my attention, the lunatic in him, that kept me engaged, kept me interested, kept me dropping my jaw off and going, no, you didn't just say that really, really, really bad joke, did you, in front of these people, much to my child's shame and horror and embarrassment. That was my dad, my father, my biological father. He was a lunatic too, but he was a lunatic because his addictions and his demons ran him. So he shared his lunacy from that place of being lost. I know that he was tormented in his life, as many of us can appreciate having people that we know and experience. So I want to recognize that for some of us, we had fathers that we didn't have the relationship we would like to have with them. And I had both spectrums of that in my life. But I still, nonetheless, saw that they wore different hats in my life. And they brought things to me in a way that shaped me. And that the man I am today was shaped by both of these fathers in my life. And that I could not and would not be the person I am. Which I might whine a little about my things I don't care for in myself, but it's those things too that make me who I am. And my awareness of those things came from both these fathers. The darkness that my biological father brought to me, I couldn't recognize, I don't believe, if I hadn't had that firsthand experience with that. It just wouldn't be my awareness the same in my life. So it impacted me. It made a difference for me. Both of them did. Whether I liked one of the relationships and didn't like the other, nonetheless, it still brought to me something of value. My father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give a person. He believed in me. I know that my dad told me that all the time. He was my greatest coach. He loved me in sports. He cheerleaded me all the time. He was every day telling me how much he believed in what I could do. He also believed that there was nothing in the world that was impossible to any human being, and he shared that with me. And he shared it in a way of that letting me know nothing is impossible. It even says that in Matthew in the Bible, that nothing is impossible to us, to you, to me. And my father was the great champion of that in my life, even while he struggled in his. It wasn't perfect for him. He was not the fathers knows best, know all was perfect in his life, father. But life was good for him. And he shared his joys with me, his successes with me. And it's now fun to look back as an adult and recognize the landmarks and those markers in a person's life that I was there with. And at the time, as a child, couldn't quite recognize their importance, but now I can look back and see them and know the excitement and the enthusiasm he had in his life for what was taking place. My dad told me this, that he expected me to be a better man than he was able to be. That he wanted me to be the man that he couldn't be. For whatever reasons in his life, he just knew he couldn't be the fullness, the completeness that he recognized that we were all capable of. And that he held that and hoped that for me. And in unity, we know that that's a prayer. So he held a prayer for me to be far more than I believed I could be, but far more that he was experiencing in his own life at that moment. He believed that was that I was capable of that. That was a possibility for me. And he holding that, he was praying that for me in my life. That was him. My biological father. I didn't experience the love from him that I got from my dad. But when he died in a car accident. Guess what he had in the trunk of that car? He had a gift for me. So somewhere in his being, he knew he had a son. And I know that what I don't know is that maybe he loved me just as much as my dad loved me. He just had his own demons to address that didn't let him share that in the way that my stepdad was able to share that with me. But also, here's a man that I look back, my stepdad didn't play sports at all. My stepdad wasn't interested in the physical things in life other than hard physical work, his employment. He wasn't interested in hunting and fishing. Those things just didn't matter to him. My father died when I was quite young. I wasn't raised around him. It was never instilled into me with the things he loved. But as I grew up, what were the things that I was attracted to and drawn to that I didn't learn from my stepdad? It was sport. It was fishing. It was those things that I believe came from my father, and that he instilled that and gave that to me, however that may happen in life, without being the one that showed me it. I do have a memory of him showing me once. I have one fishing memory from my father. I have, as an adult, been to where that dam was. Of course, in my memory, it's the size of Arkansas. When I got there, it's about the size of this room. But my memory is him fishing while I got to play around him. And he caught a fish. And he pulled that fish up on the bank, and I was so excited to be able to run down to that fish. And I got down there, and it was an alligator gar. Y'all know what an alligator gar is? He's about yay long. He's about this big around. He's a thin fish, and he's got teeth that are this big. Okay? He has a mouthful of teeth. And I remember I changed my direction as soon as I got clear about what those teeth were going on there. But those are memories for me that in some way that father that I really never knew still impacted me, still shared with me, still gave to me in this life, still pointed me in a direction without holding up his finger and saying that way. And that's what our fathers so beautifully do for us in our life. My stepdad did that too. He never really told me, you got to go this way, boy. But he showed me that by living his life that way. And I knew the direction to go because of the way he went that direction, not because he pointed and told me that direction. So he became his own finger. He pointed the way because it was him pointing the way, not his words, not his, I got to tell you how to do it, son, approach. Oprah says, what other people label or might try to call failure, I've learned is just God's way of pointing you in a new direction. I got to be there for my interpretation of failures with my biological father and with my dad. I got to see both of those things. And I know that I learned from those. And I learned from both of those fathers. And that it touched my life in a way that I cannot be separate from the experiences that I had with those men in my life. And I believe that most of us in this room have those experiences. My dad, as I told you, had ridiculously bad jokes. Most of the time, they were, there was a little innuendo in those jokes. Let's just say that he usually wouldn't tell unless he thought I couldn't hear. I could often hear. Of course, mostly as a child, I knew there wasn't something right about them, but I had no idea what they meant. They meant nothing to me. But he would tell those jokes, and I'm remembering now his ability to step up and be with people and share the stupidest of jokes were part of his genuineness. And the sharing and the love that he could convey came through his ridiculous jokes. One of those that I think would epitomize what I heard often was a buffalo is saying goodbye to his son at school. How did he say that? Bye, son. Yes. Yes. Y'all knew it. I didn't laugh like that as a child. Thank you very much. You and I have been touched by our fathers. Whether it's the fathers that were in our life loving us, or the fathers that were never in our life, or the fathers that we would say everything was challenged about that relationship. They've touched us. They've shaped us. And Oprah would say that it's been actually the pointing of the direction for us. I'm absolutely clear. I didn't want to be the man my father was. He was tormented. And I've spent my life making sure I am not that tormented man doing to my family what he did to his. And that's important to me. And thus shaped me. And even though I resist being the corny humorist, it slips out at times for me. Compliments of my dad. So today, we know that our fathers may have sometimes told us how to live, but the majority of the time they weren't telling us how to live. They just showed us how to live this life. And I believe that no matter how we judge them in that they touched us and shaped us and made us who we are, and that we're blessed by that. We may have to come to terms with the hurt that we had in that sometimes, but nonetheless, we're blessed by that. It says, you yourself must strive. The Buddhas only point the way. Buddha to me was a great teacher, showing you how to do. Buddha, I think, was the epitome of a comparable teacher to Jesus Christ, showing us how to be in this world. And I believe that our fathers were that same Buddhas, wearing those hats in our life, showing us all the different ways to be in our life, and pointing for us to remember that Buddha is us as well. That Christ that's alive is us as well. And that we, whether we ever have children or we have a horde of children that are grown now, we are still those people pointing the way by what we do in our lives. We're the Buddhas every day, in every place, in every interaction. And sometimes we get to be those Buddhas with our grandkids, with our friends' kids, with all those young people, that they get to have someone in their life that's another father, maybe another mother, that's shaping them, touching them, the same way that their mother and their father biologically are shaping and touching them. So today, our takeaway from this is, no matter what our relationship with our fathers blessed us. They gave something to us. They helped us see the way and point the direction for us. Even if it was to point the opposite direction for us. They pointed the way for us. And that when we walk into this world, that we carry with us that which we learned from our fathers. And I believe that that is that wonderful Buddha nature, that Christ nature, that love that only a parent can hold to the depth that a parent can for a child. You do that, and you get to share that with everyone, not just your children. So with that, I invite you to remember this is Dad's Day, and to honor that, and hold appreciation, and to celebrate all that you can, that memory, or that ability to just make a phone call or to have a lunch with the dad. That you are that offspring, and that you now get to point the way yourself. And so it is. For our meditation today, I'm going to invite you, as we just settle in, close your eyes. Knowing that in this space, the divine is alive. It is alive because you are here. Because this space holds within it the divine nature. This wonderful divine nature that infuses everything, embodies everything, and brings life and enlivens everything. That same divine, wondrous, beautiful nature is your nature. Nothing is impossible in this life. Thus nothing is impossible in your life. As you inhale, you're inhaling the Spirit of the divine. And as you exhale, you're exhaling that same glorious Spirit. It flows in and out because its source is within you, without, around you, above you, below you. We cannot escape from what we are. The divine Christ, awakened and alive. And as this beautiful Christ candle in its glorious flame, it shines forth. So do we, shining forth our awareness of the divine within us, the Christ that is our nature, that which gives us animation, gives us the ability in the heart to love as our fathers loved, and to receive just as the child received that love, that we as adults receive that love, and it must then go back out. Inhaling in and exhaling out. I am one with the divine. My truth is the truth of the divine in all peoples. What is possible for one is possible for all. What is my dream is the dream of the many. The joy that I feel is the joy of the planet. The compassion I hold is the compassion that all people receive because we are willing to point the way, to be the love, to honor the Buddha, the Christ within us. And as you inhale again, filling those lungs and feeling that expansion. And as it exhales, you feel yourself settling in, deepening as we move into the silent, your awareness of the Christ nature you are. You bring your attention back, and as the music team begins playing, allow that to be your call to open your eyes and to bring your awareness, your certainty, your clarity to the oneness, your oneness with the divine nature of all. And so it is. Thank y'all. It's wonderful having them here all together. So thank you. Give them that. Thank you. This is time where you get to share your generosity in a financial way. You also get to share your generosity of your heart, of your thoughts, of your prayers this time as well. So I invite you to take your monetary gift in hand or to hold it in mind if you give online. And as you're holding that, knowing that this is being shared, given, blessed by you to move out into this community and serve the mission and the focus, the heartfelt desire of this community. So with that, I invite you to repeat with me together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Hi, everybody. Happy Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to all the dads who had to take up the slack sometimes. Maybe the dads weren't there, or maybe they weren't doing the things the way we thought they should be doing things. I happen to fall into that category myself, so happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yes.
Project Swim. As you can see, our pool up here is getting full of wonderful donations. Thank you so much. This is an Our House project. This is for the kids to have a great summer. Next Sunday is the last day that we'll be collecting. I will then gather everything, and Pam and I will take it to them on Monday. All of the financial donations I will take to Walmart to get a gift card. That's what our house has asked for, is Walmart gift cards. And Tina brought to my attention that if you shop at Sears has what they call Sears bucks that you can make. So for every dollar you spend, you get $1 back, and the Sears is at McCain Mall in North Little Rock. So thank you for that information.
And there's a thank you note on the bulletin board in the back from our house for our previous contributions.
Absolutely. So I did put that up there just the other day. Next Sunday is also Potluck Sunday, and Jerry has told me that the theme is going to be farm to table. Jerry, you want to add a little bit more about that? Thank you, Jerry. And thank you, hospitality team, who always does a fabulous job.
Yes.
Travis I know he's in Florida right now, and Becky. So thank you very much. You guys do a phenomenal job. So really appreciate all that effort. Thank you. Also next Sunday, you want to tell them about Unity Path?
Unity Path is our new member class that we'll do for 4 Sundays at 9 a.m. I know that's wee early, but I'm going to make it interesting and fun. But it's about unity. So it's about our specific unity and how we work and how we operate, but about the foundations of unity. What makes unity worldwide unity? The truth of that. So that's for people that want to become members, but that's also for anyone that's just been around a while and was just curious about what they don't know about unity. That opportunity will be there.
And then next Wednesday, the following Wednesday on June 27th, you're starting a spirit group.
I'm starting a spirit group. This one will be focused on how to pray without talking to God. That's Linda Martell Whitsitt. Thank you. I'm butchering her name. Linda. Anyway, focusing on prayer, but focusing on help giving us a foundation, because in August, when Paul Hasselbeck comes, he's doing a weekend C class for it. That's spiritual education and enrichment around prayer. And he's going to use that book. So we'll have a foundation that'll actually now get to put into application. You don't have to take the spirit groups to take Paul's class, but it'll help support that and make that a much more powerful event. As well as anyone else that wants to be involved in spirit groups. If you want your own spirit group, if you want to know about other topics, we have other video series that you can utilize that make it very easy to host a group. As well as maybe you got another book that you want to follow, like Jeannie did last time. You're Jeannie, shh. Okay. I figure that out most days. Yes.
And we had a great time with our book too. So I really highly recommend it. The book club. Sandy has recommended one to me that we're going to probably look into and do a spirit group around that.
Great. That's 6:30. Thank you. Thank you for asking that.
In July, we have a couple of awesome musical events coming up. We have Armand and Angelina, who will be here on a Thursday, July the 12th, doing a concert that evening. And then Greg Tamblin, who is somebody that Tam has gotten to know through the Palooza, will be here to talk on Sunday the 22nd, at our regular 10:30 Sunday service. But that evening, he'll be doing a concert at 6 o'clock. And soon we'll be able to go online and get tickets. Is that what you're hoping for, Tam?
They're already online.
All right. And I just wanted to remind everybody also that, and this started last week, there's going to be a board member available at the end of every Sunday service for the next 10 weeks. They have it set up for you to talk to with regarding any questions or just have a conversation with. And Linda, are you the board rep for this? And you'll be back there at the end of service. I know would like to come and have a conversation with you. Absolutely. Yay. And now just one more announcement, and that's with Tina, who's been working on a community outreach project for us.
Okay, first and foremost, I want to thank Pam, Judy, Pat, David Blassie, Dave has also offered, and Jerry has all offered. Some of them have already made phone calls and got information, and some of them are offering to do some more phone calls. I'm pulling lists together of services for homeless and needy people, and volunteers are calling to make certain these places are open. I did find out that the prayer chaplains have a list of these things in their booklet. However, no one has ever called to make certain that they were open, and apparently somebody did use one of these lists and found a place to close. We don't want that to happen. I went to the Arkansas Homeless Coalition meeting this past Wednesday. I got a wonderful bit of information. When I get these lists compiled, thanks to the help of others, making certain that everything is open or still operating, we will have Jericho Away and the Good Grid on the first things on the list. In the meeting that I went to, I found out that Jericho Way and Good Grid are both very good places for them to have a starting point to go from. One of the things that people run into is that if they don't have an ID, they can't get services. However, I found out that the City of Little Rock has a City of Little Rock ID that they can get, that they can use for services. Jericho Way will pay for these IDs. Jericho Way pays for a lot of things that need to be paid for that they may not have money for. So as time goes on, I will have more information for everybody. I hope within the next 2 weeks they have these lists completed and have the list ready for people to be able to hand out to whoever may need it. And I believe that's...
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tina. Thank you.
Yeah. And I did find out as well, I think it's very important, Lucy's Place is one that I didn't find in the information that I found so far, but I found out that Lucy's Place is a safe haven for youth who are LGBT. So that's, I think it's very important that we have that one listed fairly early on the list as well. I don't have the information yet, I will give the information, I was just given the name from Nancy, the person who runs the OA. One of the things I found out, I spoke with Russ yesterday. Apparently he was in the coalition about 10 years ago, and they were battling services not wanting to work with each other because they wanted all the money for themselves. The coalition has managed to get them to realize that they are better off working with each other in
The Homeless Coalition.
the Arkansas Homeless Coalition. In the meeting Wednesday, I found out that they are actually starting to work with themselves, and through the information that I have been given from the volunteers who have called these places, it has been confirmed that these places really are working with each other. Many of the places said if we can't help them, we know places that we can send them to that can. So things are happening, and it's very wonderful thing.
Okay. Thank you, Tina. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I actually have a discussion group that's going on. It started June 9th. It's on Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joseph. There's been a lot of interest in that. Our next group is going to be June 30th. It's from 11 to 1. It's on Saturday. We're going to be meeting twice a week. I'm going to be in the back of the sanctuary. I mean, twice a month. Thank you. I'll be in the back of the sanctuary for anybody who wants information about that, or if you want to volunteer to make phone calls to check on services to make certain that they're still in operation. Please stop and see me. I appreciate it. And again, thank you to the people who have already volunteered. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is also for food bank information. Just so you know, the Central Arkansas Library System feeds any child under the age of 18. They take turns every day of the week. So if you know anybody in need, you can go on the CALS website, and they have all the libraries listed and what time that food is available for any child 18 and under.
Thank you.
And also our website.
Yeah. With that, why don't we circle up and do our closing circle? Reminder that Katie is our prayer chaplain today, and she'll be available after services for whatever request you may have. That can be any request. Stretch. There we go. And last but not least, on this clipboard is a directory to be. So that's a directory to be. The only way you will be included in this directory is if you give your permission. And the way you give your permission is to initial your name on these pages. Also, to take the 110 mistakes that are in here and help us correct them, okay, and get them updated. So this will be in the front of the sanctuary every Sunday. Linda will help with that. I will help with that. Others will help with it, but just know that it's up here. Please help us update it so we can have a contact. So when we're trying to figure out where Betty is, that we know a way to find Betty. So help with that, every one of us that way.
And a huge thank you to Sandy Grove for
Yes,
doing all that. Thank you, Sandy.
yes.
And Mr. God is our true God.
And that's most certainly the case too. If this was your first time here today, welcome and thank you. If you'd like to see Miss Tina, she has a packet of information that has coupons and gift certificates. So we have parting gifts if you would be so inclined to receive those. But know that thank you for being here. You're welcome. You're welcome here anytime. With that, our closing affirmation. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Is a tramp. She loves the free, fresh